you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds. It's time for more Suds.
Hey, welcome to this Suds episode today, where everything good in life is worth discussing. I know I don't sound like myself, but this is good old boy Mike. Welcome to the show, and joining me here at the table is good old boy Andzrej.
Hi.
Again, are you wearing a dress today?
I was thinking about it, and then you said no.
Okay. Good old boy Matt.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Oh, man, this is just so lame. Maybe we should start over again. Anyway, good old boy Chuck is here as well.
Hi, Mike.
There you go.
Yeah.
It might get through that. Anyway. We'll work on your intros later. Well, our Sud segments are all about beer, and more beer. And today's episode is a brewery takeover edition. So, you've probably listened to some of these that we've done previously. We'll actually be talking about a beer from one brewery today, and that is going to be Casey Brewing and Blending out of Colorado. So, a pretty interesting choice we have here. So we'll talk about some background about Casey, and we've narrowed our picks today to the top 4 out of this flight of 7. Plus, if we get some time, we might have a chance to review at least one or two from the rest of the flight. Matt's going to tell you about the beers that we're going to be tasting today.
All right, so we have 7 beers that we've tasted today. First, starting with the Cut, which has Balaton cherries. The East Bank, a honey ale, the Fruit Stand with Montmorency cherries, the Oak Theory, and the Oak Theory dry hopped with Amarillo and Motueka, Brett Loves Mosaic, and the Casey Family Preserves with Montmorency cherry as well.
Thanks for going through the lineup there, Matt. A really great lineup for us to go through from Casey Brewing and Blending. Chuck's going to share with us a little bit about some of the background about Casey Brewing.
So Troy Casey began Casey Brewing and Blending in the fall of 2013 with the idea of creating a blendery, basically a facility that doesn't really make brewers themselves, but doesn't really make...
But still makes
breweries, thank you. In the Roaring Fork Valley, a place where he and his fiancée had recently decided to make their home. After searching for a perfect location for the beer cellar, they found the current spot in South Glenwood right on the Roaring Fork River. Troy first began brewing sour and wild beer in 2009, and it quickly took over all of his brewing interests. This all accumulated with the creation of Casey Brewing and Blending, a place where Troy would be able to create blends his way.
So there's actually a Casey beer that's going to be on our episode discussing brewing and blending, and we have actually both of those styles of beers in today's flight. We have base beers, and then we have blended beers on today's flight as well. So tell us a little bit more about some of the background there, Chuck.
So with Casey Brewing, there's lots of locally sourced ingredients in these beers. They become quite popular. At one point, it was nearly brewery-only releases, and then they have now expanded to small distribution. We obtained today's flight direct with the help of Dr. Josh, a good friend of the show.
Yeah, it was really great. And he happened to be driving through the area, and we really lucked upon an opportunity to snag a lot of these beers directly from the brewery itself. Matt's going to tell us a little bit about some of the product lineup from Casey Brewing and Blending as well.
Sure, just to get a little more into the beers. The first one is a Saison. So as Chuck said earlier, they use all Colorado ingredients. So their Saison is a blend of Saison yeast, which is, I guess, going to be Sac, and then probably Brett and Lactobacillus. And yeah, it's a good beer. We'll talk about it a little more later. As well, the Low End, which is the beer that isn't represented in our lineup that we have, that they have in their library, as well as the East Bank, which is a higher gravity version of a saison with 4 gallons of honey added in the whirlpool. And then the oak theory, which is a Belgian sour that was oaked, and they use Colorado Pilsner and raw wheat for this, and ferment it in different sized oak barrels with another blend of yeast with sack, Brett, and probably some type of lacto. And also they have a bunch of fruit beers. So they have a fruit stand beer that seems to blend their fruit with saison barrels. So this includes using cherries, peaches, plums, blackberries, and apricots. And the family preserves is also like the fruit stand series, but with a double version of fruit. So just more of a fruit bomb on front. And then the cut series, which is blending their oak aged beer with their fruit beer to give kind of a more unique take.
Well, thanks for going over that product lineup. And so I think probably the first thing that, strikes us is, if you had known the ingredients when you were tasting these, it would have really influenced a lot of your tasting notes, wouldn't it?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us are going, no, that's definitely not what I'm tasting in the glass,
Especially the honey. I was a little shocked to realize I had tasted.
Most of them really for me.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's also because it's all locally sourced from Colorado, right? So maybe they don't have as good of a, selection of malt that they can pull from anywhere in the U.S. or the world. They're just kind of sourcing it directly, so they have a limited.
Yeah, but there are some. We'll get to it.
Anyway.
Yeah, some very interesting choices of both ingredients as well as, bugs that they've, selected here. So it's interesting. They were chasing a lot of European, style beers, being crafted in Colorado. And I think you're going to hear, some of the influence of us coming back and talking about some of the taste comparison against some of those beers that we know intimately, well, and, the ability for nailing, I think, what they're actually aiming for in some of the ingredients. Andzrej sitting here nodding his head, incessantly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to go through our top 4 beers, and then we're going to swing back around. I think we've got time to go through the SUDS ratings here. So let's definitely get to that. Andzrej is going to get the honors of going over our SUDS ratings for today. Now, Andzrej, look, we have this tradition on the show that the newbies always read the SUDS ratings. So, usually with some interesting twist.
Yeah, that's the twist that worries me here, but sure.
So,
yeah,
Andzrej, my fine Polish friend, I would love our listeners to hear actually our SUDS ratings in your native tongue in Polish. Please, no cursing in Polish, so take it away.
Or without the dress.
Yeah, or without the dress. That'll work as well.
Am I taking my pants off now?
Negative, no. You're definitely keeping your pants on for this.
No hope for me today. It's okay. It's kind of challenging since it's. I often question myself: do I think in English or in Polish, or do I think at all? Actually, I question myself at times. But,
we all question it.
Thank you. We can agree on something today.
Pizza.
All right, here we go. It's in my best Polish. Dzisiaj będziemy degustować i omawiać piwa, które wcześniej tutaj Matt właśnie wymienił, i będziemy używać oceny SUDS. That's something that's very difficult for me to translate to Polish, but I go back to Polish right away. I do tej oceny dodamy nasz opis, który używa dźwięków bekania.
Was that number 1?
To jest do bani. Daj mi cokolwiek, ale nie bad. Czy to jest beknięcie? Come on, man.
Number 3. Yeah, keep going.
Ach, co za ulga.
All right.
Number 4.
Ciało ani organ ludzki nie powinno robić takich dźwięków.
For some reason, I almost feel like I have to take my clothes off.
Let's get a little steamy in here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Number 5.
Nie wiem, jak to przetłumaczyć.
What's that? What's that, 5?
Słuchaj do tego w tym zawieszonym czasie i daj mi inny, proszę.
All right. There you have it. Our very first rendition of the Suds ratings in Polish.
And only.
I have a feeling
Hopefully.
we offended somebody.
Banned
No,
once again.
no, I promise. I promise we did not.
But were you thinking about it in Polish and translating to English, or thinking in English and translating to Polish?
Stop there.
No. Well,
Jeez.
you know, I always wonder, you know, when people have a native tongue, you know, what are they thinking about? So, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back right after this. Welcome back to Sip, Suds, and Smokes. On today's
polka.
Suds episode, and high-quality polka music. So, I was talking to Andzrej during the break. I was wondering if he was thinking in English and translating into Polish, or thinking in Polish and translating in English. And he was like, no, I'm not really telling you which one's going down. But the thing our listeners don't know is I actually took the time of translating in Google Translate, you know, onto the script for today, and it just totally hosed him. So he was actually looking at Google Translate, trying to translate into actually how he would say it, which was even worse.
Yes, it was. I really question my existence here in the United States right now.
You know what? It probably would have been better with polka music. That was what was missing, you know, from the whole rendition.
I think that makes it worse, actually.
Well, I'm so glad you came back and made a less than stellar decision to listen to the rest of the show. So we're actually going to go through the top 4 beers from Casey Brewing and Blending. And so up first, the beer we're going to talk about is called Casey the Cut, with Balaton cherries is the version that we have. So one of the things that you'll notice about a lot of these series from Casey is that they have the base product line, and then they tend to have a certain version of that they make one run of. And so you may be able to find this particular version, or you may not. So the cut is something they make a lot, and then there's 8 different fruits that they usually make along, with that as well. So again, all of these beers today are from Casey Brewing and Blending. This is the declared style of a sour wild ale, and they're from Glenwood Springs, Colorado. The ABV on this is 5%. A quick commercial description is the cut series, again, is an oak theory, aged in whole Colorado fruit, more than twice the amount of the fruit stand. The cut Balaton cherry, 2 barrels of Oak Theory, selected for this unique funk profile, and aged for over a month, and 2.5 pounds of hand-picked Troy Balaton sour cherries from Hotchkiss, Colorado. They've been patiently holding on to these cherries since last July of last year and just waiting for the perfect barrels to present themselves. And we were very tempted to use them in fruit stand, but held off and waited for Oak Theory to come to fruition. We're glad we did, and this is the best beer Troy has ever made, hands down. So this made our top 4 list. A few quick tasting notes for myself on this. I thought it had lots of cherry. I wrote down that it was tart. It had an earthy bitterness to it. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about today. I'm probably not going to kick off the conversation right off the bat. Very difficult for me to say this aligns with, some of the base aspects of what they described as the cut, and what they're aiming for with some European style, sour beer. My SUDS rating for the cut Balaton cherry is going to be a 3. Andzrej, what'd you think about the cut in the Balaton cherry version?
Well, so there is,
You need more polka music?
thank you. No. So it's reminds me a lot of back home, and Balaton cherry actually grows in Poland, and I think most of the cherries, well, this is the interesting thing, actually. There are 2 kinds of cherries growing in Poland. One of them are sour, and the other ones are sweet. And this is what my father grows in his garden, and this is what my mother-in-law also grows in her garden. And so it really, as soon as the first sip was like, oh, I really felt like home eating on those cherries. So this is the part I really like. What I'm really confused is I would never call it saison. It's a Belgian sour to me.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the things that I thought was interesting is, they call it a saison, although the declared style is a sour wild ale. I don't know that I even have a tough time putting it in either category. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's good. I like it. It's very tart, very sour.
How much you think of the cherry being so tart contributing to the overall tartness of it?
That's a very good question, actually, and I was thinking about it. So
they said they use like 100 pounds or something, or
2 pounds per gallon.
2 pounds per gallon.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fruit.
I think it's very difficult to judge here how much of the tartness actually comes from the wild fermentation and how much of it comes from the cherries. And I don't know. I'm torn here.
What's your SUDS rating?
I'm gonna give it a 3.
How about that? Good old boy Matt, what'd you think about the cut Balaton cherry?
Well, it wasn't my favorite beer on the list, but I thought it was good. It was definitely interesting. It kind of started to open up as it warmed up as well. You kind of got a little more of the funky aroma as it warmed up. But initially, I really thought it tasted very medicinal, kind of pitty, a little bit of nut or almond in there. Other than that, I think it tastes very nice. It is tart, but it's not like overly sour, I think. Definitely very hard to distinguish where the sour is coming from, because I feel like there's definitely a fair amount of lactic acid, but you could definitely taste a fair amount of citric
I think
as
the
well.
bugs are bringing it,
Yeah.
not the fruit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's kind of stick at the end a little bit.
Yeah. I still get a lot of citric, though, and I think the cherries are going to have mostly citric acid that are going to tart it.
What's your SUDS rating?
A dose.
Well. Good old boy Chuck, what'd you think about the cut Balaton cherry?
I actually like this one. I think one thing that hasn't touched on is the oak really comes out. I think you still kind of get the oak, even though there is a lot of tartness, and the cherries are definitely bringing it. And it sticks with you a little bit, being a little bit sour, but I think it's all good. I think it has a really good balance to it. I liked it. I thought it was probably one of the best out of the group.
What's your SUDS rating?
I give it a 4.
No.
If I may add something, for me, I think the oak was drowned in a pettiness, pretty much. That nutty, petty. Yeah. That's overwhelming here. So I did. Well, we could talk about vanillin here, on and on and on.
Well, up next in our top 4 lineup is going to be the dry hopped oak theory, the Amarillo and Motueka. Is that how you say it? Is that right? I'm going to go for it and declare that that was pronounced correctly.
Sure.
As a Southerner, I agree with it.
Yeah, I agree. I can fake it with the best of them. So, again, this beer is from Casey Brewing and Blending. The ABV on this, again, is 5%. My own tasting notes here on dry hopped oak theory, the Amarillo and Motueka version, I wrote down, kind of an unusual combination. I don't know somebody that's really combined these hops with, sour ale. That, I don't know. I was really kind of racking my brain and trying to think of somebody that's done. I know people have put hops in sour beer, before, but
Maybe like Prairie?
not like this.
Yeah, not like
this
this.
is a very different animal. I wrote down that I really can't decide if these things are competing with each other or if they're actually, kind of working with each other in harmony. I kept on going back and forth, about it. I kind of landed exactly, right in the middle, which is, at times I felt like they were kind of working together, and other times they were kind of fighting with each other. So, I think for people that are probably hop heads, and I am, I think that you would probably go, that's pretty weak on the hoppy side. And I think for people that are probably, funk heads and really looking for a sour, they'd go, I don't know what all this hoppiness is doing in my sour beer. And they're probably going, this just doesn't work for me. So I would say that if you're maladjusted on one side of those or the other, you're probably going to wonder what's wrong, as opposed to saying, I think this all works. So kind of looking at it, my suds rating for the dry hopped oak theory, Amarillo and Motueka is going to be a 3. Good boy, Andzrej, what'd you think about this beer?
Not a big fan.
Huh.
Yeah, it's too woody.
Slurp.
Yeah, slurp. I just wanted to make sure that I'm just not being a plain pizza butthole. It's not undrinkable, but it's I'm very torn.
Is that a positive?
Is that a tasting profile?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I agree with most of what you said. I would not give it 3. I'm
gonna slide towards
1.
a 1. Wow.
Ooh.
Okay. So would you call it a full drain pour?
You said drinkable. You can't say it's a drain board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I guess it
You
depends.
would give it to a friend that you don't particularly care for. That would be your choice.
I have a list here, actually.
Wow.
Would you put it on a
If I
salad?
made the top 4 list on there.
No, actually not. But we'll see what will happen on the end of this day.
Okay. Well, I am aiming for the bottom. Good old boy, Matt, what'd you think about the dry hopped oak theory, Amarillo and Motueka?
I actually thought this was fairly good. I thought it had a lot of notes of champagne to me, like the bready toastiness. Also a little like floral fragrant, not flagrant, and and funky. It's got a good amount of blue cheese on it. I feel like when I smell it, I smell like kind of Limburger. Something like that.
Is that all? No, nothing. I'm sorry. Thinking in Polish again.
But yeah, I thought it was good. I'd give it a 3. I don't know if I'd want to drink like more of what I had, but I'd give it a 3.
Good boy, Chuck, what do you think about the dry hopped oak theory, Amarillo and Motueka?
Yeah, I think I'm more in line with you, Mike, and Matt on this. I think it's pretty good. I kind of understand what you're saying about it kind of being two things. Are they working against each other or kind of going together? I think they're kind of parallel up front, and then at the end, when it kind of hits you at the end, they kind of come together, and it's pretty good at the end. Like, that leaves a very nice taste in your mouth. It's the hops and the sourness, the funkiness kind of come together and do well. Matt said something about the the last thing you said. I just lost it.
Blue cheese?
Yeah, the blue cheese. I don't get that at all. I was trying to remember what you said, but yeah, I didn't get that. It does seem a little heavy on you and on my on the stomach again. Like I feel like I wouldn't want to drink a lot of this, but I do think that it's a decent beer. I say it's a 3.
So, we have these interesting, points of discussion about what were they aiming for, when they were trying to make this beer. I think heading down that path and actually declaring that we're going to hop, dry hop a beer, a sour beer, I don't know. Is that really a great choice, that you see, this particular brewer making? Or, was this, hey, I've got, 40 pounds of hops and I need to figure out something to do with it. And, bam, there you go.
Well, I mean, they're all local ingredients, right? So, I mean, if you come across...
I don't know. It seems like leftover ingredient time, like it's door knock dinner time, for brewing. And, just throwing in, whatever was in the back, the back of the warehouse. That's what this kind of tastes like to me. It didn't seem like it was a plan. It just seemed like, they were working with some ingredients, I think, that were just readily available.
Well, it's kind of the beauty of dry hopping something.
I know, yeah. And, that's always, and I think that's part of the bell that tends to go off, in my head. When somebody says they dry hop something, I went, oh, so you had 4, you had like, 5 bags of that left over in the corner that, it's going bad and you got to figure out something to do with it.
Well, I think it has that resiny, like, what you get when you over dry hop something that you can get sometimes. I taste a lot with home brews, and it wears on me a lot. So it kind of.
So we just touched on briefly, as we kind of charged into this flight about, man, this is definitely not European style sour at all, is it?
No.
Yeah. And Andzrej is shaking his head, violently.
He's the resident expert.
Yeah. Going, I don't think this heads down the land of lambic at all. What's it missing? It seems like the choice of bugs, is maybe what's going on here, that it's just have not hitting the right, style of sour.
Well, but then I guess we could have another discussion about what lives in that environment. Yes, what's the actual flora? So that's something that, well, I can definitely see a challenge to classify those brews based on what are the realms of classification of the beer. It's not just fermentation process. Yes, there is much more to it. So yeah, I can definitely see, the trying to, approach it properly, and then you're an expert, and you.
I don't know. It just seems like, if they were aiming for something that was really going to be a traditional lambic, this tastes like, wow, I found a really good sour, strain that I'm really just going to use over and over and over, and I don't think it aligns with what I think of with a lot of traditional lambics.
Sure, but perhaps given the strong interest in local bacterial flora nowadays, perhaps a lot of those approaches they need to be redefined, and to give credit to the craft itself. Yes.
Well, let's drift right off the cliff of sour beer and actually talk about the one Brett beer here, which is Brett loves Mosaic. So this is a Saison. I'm assuming it's been washed with Brett and was hopped up with Mosaic. The commercial description on this is just that it's Brettanomyces hopped farmhouse ale, oaked and aged in oak barrels. The ABV on this is 6%. Again, all these beers are from Casey Brewing and Blending. My own tasting notes on the Brett Loves Mosaic, I wrote down very light. This is probably very popular. I bet people just flock to this all day long. It's very easy drinking. It is a very approachable, typical Brett beer. We've had a bunch of these, and they always strike me as something that somebody's putting in the lineup to say, I need something that's not quite as acidic in my lineup so that I can still show people that sour can present itself in a soft light and without a lot of the acidic, overtones that really are presented in a lot of traditional sour beers. I gave this a solid 4. Andzrej, what do you think about Brett Loves Mosaic?
I agree, actually. This beer is outstanding from the rest of the flight here, and definitely something. Pizza. I said that so many times today. I would drink this beer all day long. I actually would. I mean it this time, and yeah, it's very light, very enjoyable. Very, very. Again, going back to using very. Those
You don't have
nice.
to define yourself every time you say that.
I know. I like to do that though. It's about me. It's not about you.
Needs more polka music.
I think so.
Don't
Play
be
him
like
out.
that.
Play him off. Wrap it up.
And here we are,
I like this beer. Yes. The
tasting notes of Brett with Andzrej.
I'll give it a 3.
How about that? Matt, what do you think about Brett Loves Mosaic from Casey?
So I have to agree with you, Mike. I think this is probably their flagship. It's good. It's approachable. It's complex enough where it keeps you thinking about it, but not too complex where you're like, what the hell am I drinking? But it's nice, like lemony, bready. I feel like it's very heavy on the Mosaic, but a lot of it's been fermented out by the Brett. I also get a good amount of honey on it, and I think it's very good. I like it. I'm going to give it a 4.
How about that? Yeah, I agree. I think that there are chicks that stand in line asking for this all day long. You know?
No.
Well, we'll be right back after this break and talk about it more. Hey, welcome back to Sip Suds and Smokes, or Polka with Andzrej.
Very, very.
He's
It's very polka.
That's my new nickname.
Pizza. The pizza polka.
Very, very pizza.
Very,
polka.
very pizza polka.
Yep. That's your stage name. Very, very. I've just decided that.
Very, very Andzrej.
So we're going through a full lineup from Casey Brewing and Blending today. We're going through our top 4, and we're just kind of rounding out some of our comments on number 3, which is the Brett Loves Mosaic. Good old boy Chuck, what do you think about this beer?
I have to agree. I think it's good. I definitely think that it sells in the fact that, one, it's very well balanced, and it's a approachable Brett beer, and also has the name Mosaic in it, which obviously just sells right now at this point. I pretty much agree with what everyone else has said, and so instead of rehatching it, I'll just say I think it's a 4.
So, quick question. Have you guys ever had a bad beer with Brett?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of them, actually.
Yeah.
No, most of them, but yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things that's used like hops, which, you know, oh, wow, I really hosed this up. I think I'm just going to wash it with Brett, you know, and lighten it up quite a bit.
Well, I think a lot of times I don't let them sit long enough. I think giving them time to mature is a big deal. It's rushing them out.
So Chuck asked me something through the break about the popularity of these beers. Yeah, they definitely have a lot of buzz, you know, about them. And I think a lot of that was generated out of the distribution model itself. You know, I think they had a lot of limited availability, and I think part of what was creeping into a lot of these beers is the thrill of the kill. you're in that line, and we've all done this. You're in that line, you're standing there for 3 hours. Actually, Matt held my hand the last line we were in together. So,
yeah, we both ate Jack in the Box.
Yeah, we did that day. It's you have this moment where you have the thrill of the kill. I have something that I have spent a lot of time and energy, in order to find. And I think one of the things that we're finding here, at least with a lot of the lineup we've had so far, is that the beers are not standing up to a lot of the hype itself. I mean, if I had the question I would throw out to you right now, would you go and stand in a line for 4 hours for one of these beers?
Do you think we just spoiled with what's going on here?
No.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I'm just saying, would you, knowing the beers that you've tasted here, I mean, would you go and stand in a line for 4 hours to buy one of these?
Hell no.
Yeah. I think it would be very difficult. Now, would I still, purchase some of these and, enjoy some of them? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, some of them have some of that. But I think, really looking at the tremendous amount of hype, that are surrounding, a lot of these beers, I think it's outstripping, a lot of what we're actually having in the glass. Well, let's swing around to our the number 4 in our top 4, and it is from the Casey Family Preserve series. That is Montmorency cherry version is the one that we have here today. Again, this beer is from Casey Brewing and Blending. This is one of their saisons, and the ABV on this is 6% as well. The quick description they've posted is it's an ale aged in oak barrels with cherries. I love the simplicity of that. So my own tasting notes on this beer. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this beer, for sure. I love the subtle aspect of the fruit in this. I thought the cherries were, kind of presenting itself in the background and almost kind of like a bit of a backdrop, to everything else that's kind of going on. There is, a sweetness that's really kind of coming through that kind of balances the sourness, in this beer quite a bit. And the barrel aging on this, I think, has done a very good job of actually softening the whole thing. So, the aspects of the wood and some of the vanilla that's kind of, presenting itself, that are essence from the barrel that they used, I really just kind of thought it's brought about some really great harmony. This is a really fantastic beer. I would have no problem at all standing in line for that beer for 4 hours. And I'm going to give it a solid 5. Good old boy Andzrej, what did you think about the Casey Family Preserve Montmorency cherry?
This is the best beer from this lineup. I really, again, reminds me of home. The cherries that I picked myself from my father's and my mother's-in-law garden, and it's really, really tasty. Yeah, solid 4 from me.
How about that? No polka music for that tasting note. I like that.
Where was the very?
I agree. Only 2 varies.
A very 5.
Yes,
a very 5.
Good old boy Matt, what'd you think about the Casey Family Preserve Montmorency cherry?
I thought this was great. I agree with Andzrej. I think this is the best out of the lineup for sure. I think it's just a cherry bomb, but it's done very well. It's juicy. The funk and the tartness really complements the cherry, and you kind of just want to keep drinking it because it tastes like you're eating candy cherries.
Huh.
It's awesome. I would give it a 4.
Wow, how about that?
And the vanillin is still in. I keep doing that.
That's all right.
Yeah,
you were saying
the vanillin is still there, but it's all very well balanced. You can.
Yeah, the oak isn't too crazy on this.
Yeah, and I'm still confused actually here. Am I tasting that almondy pittiness, or maybe this is just oak, and I'm being confused about this.
I don't know, Mike. Did you get almond? I didn't really get it.
Well, I think you're feeling some element of the wood, and I think that can present itself as some aspect of nutty. Because I think the barrel is definitely very evident.
They do use whole fruits, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but no, I don't think that's playing into some of the taste profile here. I think that's the barrel. That's my opinion. Good old boy Chuck, what'd you think about the Casey Family Preserve Montmorency cherry?
Yeah, I really liked it as well. The cherry kind of definitely, for once, kind of overcomes the oak barrel, so where it's not playing the front role. The cherries are playing the front role in this beer, and it's like a cherry soda. It's really good. I agree. It's a 5.
Wow, about that. So see, just as you thought we were hammering all of these beers, we actually found one that we all agreed and liked, quite a bit. And, really great beer. I would say we're going to drink the rest of that and not share it. So anyway, we are going to talk about a few of the beers that did not make our top list, which we're going to start off with the East Bank. And Chuck is going to talk a little bit about some of his tasting notes and his rating for that.
Well, so they described this as a farmhouse with honey, which, to be honest, I didn't really get the honey until I read it. I probably should have. It is the biggest beer that they have, or we're tasting today, which is 6.5. I actually kind of like this one, even though it wasn't in our top 4.
Slurp, slurp.
Yeah, it's just nothing to it like the other ones. Like, with the CFP, which we just tasted, the cherries are there and kind of giving you that overwhelmingness of the oak. With with the Mosaic, you're getting a lot of that. It kind of balanced with this. It just kind of fell a little flat. There's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing great about it.
So what's going to be your SUDS rating for this?
I give it a 3.
3. Well, we had some interesting discussion about, that base beer. The one thing that you thought was interesting was you didn't get the honey, in this. And
did you?
No, I really did not.
Me either.
Yeah. So, and we've had, I've had a lot of beers that, have honey on them. And that earthy, sweetness that you tend to get, from a lot of styles of honey.
Or the hint of the flower or something
Anything,
like that.
Yeah. It's just all completely lost, somewhere along the way. So, yeah. I think this is one of those things that I would just call it a farmhouse ale and just call it a day. And, saying that you're putting honey into it, I think, you're going to be looking for a long time, if that's the case.
Yeah, I think if you add enough bugs like they're doing too, you're really going to start metabolizing, fermenting all of that stuff in there regardless.
You're basically losing all the sweetness you would have got from it.
Yeah, you're losing all the flavor.
Yeah.
Given that honey always carries all those the chemistry, that it's very easily metabolized by, not even when just looking at yeast and that metabolism, that honey is perfect food for yeast, and most of that very little is going to be left. So I don't know, perhaps the case of blueberries. Yes, the blueberries being so popular, and it's always so very difficult to get that profile across. And given wild or local microbiome or bacterial flora from that environment, there's probably not that much of that honey is going to be left in there.
Mm. Well, up next is good old boy Andzrej talking about the fruit stand, which also did not make our top 4. Here, you need more polka music while you're slurping away.
This was the big perm, right?
Yeah, I'm still baffled with your comment on that. This I like this beer actually. It's not bad. It's very fruity soda. Is this also saison, supposedly?
It is.
Yeah, that's my issue with. I don't get any saison in that beer. I like that beer. It's a very drinkable beer, very fruity. Fruit is very balanced.
So you're questioning why use the saison use at this point? Why wouldn't you just use something else?
Yeah. Why would you even call it a saison?
So you're not questioning the use of the saison use. You're more questioning.
Well, we're still talking about this is.
Is it nomenclature or?
This is fruit stand.
Yeah.
Well, it's more farmhouse because they're using a bunch of lacto and Brett in there as well. It's a big blend of bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt wins
Okay.
the deconstruction prize on that one.
So yeah, nomenclature for me here. I have problem with that. Otherwise, I like that beer. I'll give it a 4.
Wow.
It's still permy to me.
What do you mean by that?
Ever been into like a hair shop where they had like someone getting their hair permed?
That's totally it. I agree. If you smelled that, I agree. It would smell just like a perm.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do they use
Like
actually? What is
thiols?
that chemistry? Is it thiols or is it a lot of hydrogen peroxide?
thiols.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's reducing agents.
Huh.
Chemistry.
Interesting. I never thought that I would use the smell, the aroma of a perm in talking about how a beer, is reflected. It's always about breaking new ground here, Chuck. So, that's totally it. Yeah. We had one more beer that did not make our top 4, and that is the Casey Oak Theory. Matt's going to talk a little bit about his tasting notes on this.
Sure. So, I think it was a lot different from the dry hopped oak theory that we tried. This was a lot more heavy on the oak. I felt like it was very heavy on like a neutral oak or a fresh oak or something, fresh American oak, something like that. Almost like a buttery champagne type taste. Woody, more cheesiness. I think the body was really thick and slick, kind of like a oily oaky beer, something like that. I would give it a dose.
Wow.
I wouldn't say it was a 2. I think it's better. I'd just say that it's the base of all the other beers we kind of like for the most part. So I think it's just doesn't have the shine that the other
I don't know. It's an oak juice for me. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Oak juice.
I think this is all about the barrel, in this version. This would be a beer that I would hand to somebody that really enjoys Chardonnay. Because this is exactly the same taste profile as a big buttery, California, Chardonnay.
Rosenblum Chardonnay.
Absolutely. It is. In fact, if I was probably in a blind tasting, I would just throw this in just to screw with people, and say,
Just shake it and get the gas out.
what do you think about that wine? I really love the buttery overtone, on this, and I just think the way the venter was working, against the grapes, I really think it was working really well, and I would just be.
You're such a whiner. I had no idea, actually.
I would just be sitting over in the corner with a big fat grin on my face, going, "Yep, you have no idea what you're talking about." I'd probably pull it against, some, certifiable, wine geek, that just he thinks they know everything about everything.
I think they called sommeliers.
Yeah, there is one sitting to your right, so
yes.
That's why I would say I would.
Why would you do that? I'm sorry.
I know. I lost a bet. That's all I got to say.
Are you've been officially trained?
I'm certifiable.
He
That
just
is
said
correct,
that.
You've been duped, sommelier.
I have. I am certifiable. That is correct. Yeah. So I think that's why I would really enjoy the moment of really pulling one over on somebody. So I think the trick of doing that would be let it sit out for like 4 hours or something like that, and allow them to come back around and enjoy this after a lot of the carb is kind of moved off this, and and make sure it's like exactly the same temperature.
Yeah.
That would be just like uber cruel, all the way around, to just see, how people would pull that down.
So we've decided Oak Theory is a decent beer and a really great wine.
There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. Chuck hit it right on the head for 500.
Well, it's got the color,
Yeah,
I would
it
say.
looks like wine.
They use like half wheat, but it's not cloudy at all.
So what'd you guys think about this flight overall?
It was all right.
Yeah.
It was a little sour. My stomach hurts a little bit.
It's very.
So one cool winner and a lot of average,
very.
things
Thank you,
going
Jack.
on.
Yeah. I think it was good conversation, though.
I agree.
It's a good conversation piece.
With polka music. So, all right.
I appreciate that.
Let's finish the very, very important episode.
Bye.
Well, you have spent quite a bit of time here with us on this episode, and we're going to wrap up today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode and catch all of our episodes online, as well as on SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, PRX, and Spreaker, our native media host. iTunes and our own Android app are the easiest ways to enjoy the show on your phone. Just search for Sip Sud Smokes on iTunes or in Google Play, and be sure to tap subscribe, and boom, the show will always be right there on your phone. We love your feedback, and you can reach us online anytime at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. Our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter every day at SipSudsSmoke. And our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter every day, and our handle is at SipSudsSmoke. Our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of nudes. Join us on there, and you'll be able to interact with thousands of other fans on
Did you say nudes, Mike?
That's what I heard. And I was like, nudes? What?
Hang on a second. Let me play that back. I don't think so. I haven't had that much cold medicine. Do us a favor and take the time to rate this episode if you're listening to us online, as well as my diction. That's a great big help to us, and we get to see your feedback as well.
What?
You said nudes and dick.
Shins.
I want to count on the number of times that Andzrej said very, very on this episode.
Very, very pizza.
Very, I agree. Let me thank my co-host for being here. Good old boy Andzrej.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you here.
It was an amazing experience. I'll never forget that, Mike.
Oh, okay. Good old boy Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike.
And good old boy Chuck.
I'd like to thank my mom and my girlfriend for listening this long. They'll still be the only ones who do.
Well, as long as you paid off your family.
That's really sad, but so romantic at the same time.
There's always that one member of the family. Well, this is good old boy Mike asking you to come back, join us once again, and keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sip, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.